his prosecution of civil rights workers, what it was that Jeff Sessions did to the black vote and to try to chill the black vote, to try to keep African Americans away from the polls. And the letter is powerful. The letter is deeply moving. And the letter is an important historical document. In 1986, it moved a Republican-controlled Senate to say no to confirming him as a federal judge. And yet today, when I went down to the floor of the United States Senate to do what I was supposed to do, which is debate the nomination of Jeff Sessions, and I wanted to read her letter, I was told that I had committed a Rule 19 violation by impugning Mr. Sessions. And I just want to be clear here, by telling the truth, by reading a document that had been written back in 1986 by Coretta King. I was impugning Mr. Sessions, and I was the one ruled out of order, and I am not permitted to speak on the floor of the Senate again until after the vote
for Jeff Sessions. And again, this is they said you were in violation of Rule 19 of the standing rules of the Senate to impugn another senator or senators any conduct or motive of becoming a senator. The interesting thing is that he's now being considered now for Attorney General. How are you supposed to criticize him in any way? Is this, are they interpreting this in whatever way they want? Is that your argument here?
Yes.
Is it a selective enforcement?
They're interpreting it however. Let's just be clear. There have been some hard words on the United States Senate through the years. But all of a sudden, when I'm reading something, a truthful statement from Coretta Scott King, the answer is, nope, can't say that. Well, I'm going to tell you this. They can shut me up, but they can't change the truth. What Coretta Scott King talked about Jeff Sessions doing back in 1986 is something every American should know about. And it's
Do you have the letter in front of you,
Senator
Senator?
Should think about before they vote to confirm him as Attorney General of the United States.
Do you have the letter in front of you? Can you read the passage that you were reading at the? I think it starts with anyone who has used. It starts with, Dear Senator Thurmond, I write to express my sincere opposition to the confirmation of Jeff B. Sessions as a federal district court judge for the Southern District of Alabama. Do you want to pick it up from there? Senator, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're coming and going on me here.
So I will read it. I will read it because you can't hear me. And then so it says from the Southern District of Alabama. My professional and personal roots in Alabama are deep and lasting. Anyone who has used the power of his office as United States Attorney to intimidate and chill the free exercise of the ballot by citizens should not be elevated to our courts. And then it goes on. It's not that much longer, but she says, I do sincerely urge you to oppose the confirmation of Mr. Sessions. And it's signed, Sincerely, Coretta Scott King.
Yes.
What was harmful about that? Because it says, talks about voters and for his reprehensible conduct, he should not be rewarded with a federal judgeship.
Yes. You know, that's the part that you really have to look at here. It's that we can't talk on the floor of the Senate about what Jeff Sessions did back in the 1980s, how he worked to keep blacks from having access to the ballot box. We can't talk about that as we debate his nomination to be the Attorney General of the United States. That is fundamentally wrong.
Yeah. It says,
if the truth hurts, then that's all the more reason to hear it. That's reason for the American people to hear it.
The letter says Mr. Sessions has used the awesome power of his office in a shabby attempt to intimidate and frighten elderly black voters. Do you think that the language in this letter was too harsh, maybe?
Those are the facts. And Coretta Scott King was a witness to those facts. These weren't stories handed round. She was an eyewitness to history, and she is relating what happened, what Jeff Sessions did, what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. Yeah. That's what she's doing here, and I think those facts are relevant to the question of whether he is fit to be Attorney General of the United States.
So can I talk to you, Senator, about the climate in the Senate right now? Because you have an awesome task You have awesome tasks that you're facing right now with confirming a lot of these nominees and appointees. You're supposed to be the folks with the level head. What's the climate like now in the Senate?
Well, this is a time when we can't debate nominees. The Republicans are determined to just cram them down our throats sideways. You tell me a time in American history, after we had a Department of Education, when it was that someone who basically doesn't believe in public education would become the Secretary of Education, and it could get so little support in the Senate that literally 50 divide, that there were Democrats, Republicans, independents voting against her, and they would haul the Vice President of the United States over here to do a tiebreaker so that she can go run the Department of Education. This is a shocking moment. You just can't believe this kind of thing is going on. And the same sort of thing now with Jeff Sessions. That their argument here is you can't talk about the bad things he did. That if we're going to go ahead and talk about Jeff Sessions, that's fine if you have nice things to say. And if you have nice things to say, you're allowed to stand up and talk. But if you don't, which I didn't, then the answer is you've got to sit down and just close your mouth.
What are you going to do now?
I'm not going to the floor of the Senate to speak. I've been out there on the floor of the Senate. I literally cannot be recognized on the floor of the Senate. I have become a non-person during the discussion of Jeff Sessions.
Are you hearing from other senators?
Yes.
What are they saying?
And great solidarity on this. Kamala Harris, for example, she stood up because she could still get recognized after I had been gavelled down and told I had to be quiet. And she moved to let me speak on the floor of the Senate. Of course, that was denied. She appealed the ruling of the chair. And there have been several other people who stood up and talked about this. But I have to say, be clear, Republicans have stood up too. And they have said, no, no, no. They haven't said that Jeff Sessions has a good record. They haven't defended Jeff Sessions on the facts, on the merits. They have said, you are not allowed to talk about it if you're going to say something like this.
Senator Elizabeth
And we
Warren.
sure don't want to hear from Coretta Scott King about what happened back in the 1980s.
Senator Warren,